I've got to tell you, it's worth the trip just to see kids line up for an hour before worship starts at the door because they want to be the people sitting down here in the front row. And they come racing down the aisles. And they didn't do that for one service or two. They did that for every service. I've never seen or experienced anything like that before. I was encouraged by their willingness to volunteer. There was a 270 volunteer youth choir at Presbyterian Youth Triennium, and it was so glad to see the kids just volunteer willingly to go do that. I was glad to see youth ordained as elders. And on Friday, when we took our communion, we took it from the hands of youth elders. What a blessing. I was encouraged by their excitement to be a part of the living church, by their openness in small groups. I was encouraged by youth who already knew that they were called to be pastors. I was like, wow, look at you. And to hear their love of God and their love of neighbor expressed. But I was encouraged by something else as well. I looked around, and with 5,000 teenagers, you can't even imagine how many advisors it takes. It takes quite a few. And I looked around, and I saw people that were my age and older. And I said to them, why are you here? Why are you here? And every time they would respond, where better to be? Where better to be than in a place where we can invest in the future of our church? This is the future of our church. And I said, wow, good for you, good for you. Are you beginning to kind of get this message? Because I want to be really clear. There's a palpable, powerful, important ministry that I hope you see going on. It is the ministry of encouragement. And obviously it is happening across the nation in our churches for 5,000 youth to want to be at a triennium event. Oh my goodness, how important the ministry of encouragement is for our youth. But it's not just important for just our youth. It's an important ministry that needs to be in the church at all places at all times. Let me tell you, your clergy, they need encouragement. Your serving elders, they need a word of encouragement. Your mission committees need a word of encouragement. But today, my focus and my word is for the importance of encouragement towards your youth and young people. I'm here standing in this church today because, and there's a reason, because I made a phone call last spring to the Presbytery of Detroit, your presbytery. And I said, I'm looking for a place where our teenagers can serve. Is there any opportunities in your presbytery? And it was the first time that I dialed a number and somebody from the presbytery office said, you bet. We got a place for your kids. We've got a mission coordinator, and she's sitting right back there, Mary Lloyd. And we've also got a youth coordinator for a youth summer mission blast, Sharon Barconi. And Sharon, where are you? Can't see you. Oh, there she is. And from the moment I picked up that phone, we started being encouraged to come here. And I'm grateful. We came knowing, because we did some study about Detroit, we came knowing that 18,000 people in your town are homeless, and about 20% of them are children. We read news articles and watched interviews with your mayor about the abandonment of home and the massive job losses within your community. We came expecting to be your encouragement. And the great thing is you were ours. You were ours. We walked away encouraged by your dedication to your mission, to the opening of your hearts and your hands and your doors to those less fortunate in your community. We walked away encouraged by your spirit, by your hope, and by your faith. I went home and I told people in our church, you know what? The first day of that mission trip that we were there with, took our 16 teenagers up there, we had prayed more by noon than is customary in our church and in our practices in maybe 2 weeks. We were encouraged by your faith. I can also assure you of what it has done for our kids. It's encouraged our youth to want to do more. They want to do more in our church. They want to do more in our community. And for that, we stand grateful. And we thank you for your words of encouragement and for your example of encouragement and faith set for us. I got to tell you, from the moment I left this church, your head of staff looked at me because she could, I'll just make an admittance here. I've never had the opportunity to preach in such a large church before. We came in and, the beauty of this sanctuary. We were just overwhelmed by it. And when we left, your pastor, Sharon Mook, she said to me, would you like to preach here sometime? I said, seriously? Yes, I would love to preach here sometime. And so that's how today happened. But from the moment she said that, I walked out that door and I thought about Barnabas. And I began to think, goodness, Barnabas, son of encouragement. This week has been all about encouragement. And I thought about Barnabas, and I thought about how because of his ministry of encouragement, because of what he did, Saul became the Apostle Paul. And after I spent weeks at camps and at trienniums and mission trips with our youth, I've lived with this question all summer. If we encourage our youth, if we encourage them, who might they become? Who might they become? When a child or an infant receives their baptism, we take a vow as a congregation to guide and nurture by word and deed with love and prayer, encouraging them to know and follow Christ. It's an important commitment that we together as the church make to our young people, and it's never something we can relegate to someone else. That's why it's kind of the story of the Pied Piper this morning with the children. Sometimes what we want to do in our best good-hearted interests of our youth is we get together and we say, well, if we just had enough money, what we could do is we could hire a young person that looks the way the kids like them to look. They could look cool with the wild hair and all of that. And we could set up kind of this Pied Piper thing, and the kids would follow this person, and then other kids would come from the community. And it's a great thought. But the problem is, because of our baptismal vow, we're not allowed to relegate our responsibility to our youth and kids to someone else. It doesn't mean that there's not a place for a person like that, and goodness knows I'd like to see a person somewhat like that in our own ministry, but you can't just give it all away. Kenda Dean writes from Sustainable Youth Ministry. She says, youth ministry is the church's ministry, and not that of specialists who can just relate to young people. The mandate for us is to be there for young people, and it belongs to the Christian community, not to any one person or group of individuals. Sound like a baptismal vow? Sure does to me.